Hi everyone, welcome back to another day in the life of DevRel. Today I'm going to be continuing on with writing this blog post and showing you my process. So this is a technical blog post that I've drafted several iterations of, and you can see my process thus far. So I've used ChatGPT, some original bullet points, and asked for reviews. So the reviews have come back, and human reviews. And so I've gone through this entire process, and I've also uploaded previous videos as well. So here you go. These are the previous versions of it. Now this is what I'm about to do. Actually, let me just do that. Just do some housekeeping. Okay, so then we also have the ChatGPT share link. So that was exported from ChatGPT after, draft article number 4, right? And this is something I wanted to show, right? So I've got my own blog, blog.thegwiz.com, and I created this markdown file based on draft article 5. And I suppose it's just copy paste markdown really, and then some additional wrangling with the images, and it includes the draft article as well. So I deployed a preview here and then got some reviews, and then it's the same preview link again afterwards. So I'll show you what that looks like. So this file over here renders to this file on localhost, right? So you can see exactly what the article will look like when it is published when the markdown has been rendered, essentially, right? And credits to these 4 of my colleagues who have given me the feedback to produce this iteration. So the next step is I push that, create a PR, and Netlify does its thing, right? So there's a Netlify deploy preview, and you can see it's the same thing, except for the changes that I've just made locally. So that's where I'm at over here. Right, and so I've asked for feedback and edited draft article number 5, so that's done. And this is what I'm about to do now, right? So kind of done this a little bit out of order, but I'm going to I've already split that file that I've rendered into a different Google Doc, and the reason for this is I do have some non-technical reviewers who need to see it in like fully rendered format, and so Markdown is like either too tricky or not the preference for them, and so they just want a clean file without all the other markings, etc. So this is just done for a different type of review, I guess. So my objective now is to take this draft number 5, right? Or I should say this rendered version of draft number 5, and put that into Hemingway app, and also use thesaurus in conjunction with the Hemingway app to fix the language, to simplify it. So here we go, right? So I'm just gonna copy the whole file and paste that into hemingwayapp.com, right? And we'll get back to this in a minute, but first just wanted to sort of show what Hemingway app is, right? So I think this was the standout thing to me, right? So essentially these color codes here, they show you which parts of what you've written is difficult to read, and it does so by grading it at what is your reading level according to your grade. So grade 1 being 7-year-olds and so on, and then grade 12 is the end of high school, right? So they've graded it according to difficulty, and the idea is that the most difficult ones are red, and then the brown ones are not so difficult but still difficult, and then the other two, there's a few other color codes for more specific types of difficulty. But this was a standout paragraph to me. Just make the size bigger. So, famous author, after which the app is named, right, reads at a 5th grade level, despite, his work not being for children, right? So the aim is to get something that's between a 5th and a 10th grade level, according to this. And unless you want to sound like an academic or something, do not write at university level, which would be where about 15th grade is. So this app essentially, is a detector of complicated language. If I had to put it in one sentence, it is a detector of complicated language. And it allows you to live edit it inside the app itself to see what you can change. I played around with this before, and essentially there are 2 things you want to do, which is shorter sentences, that's number 1, and number 2, less complicated words, right? And then there's maybe a third one as well, which is not so important, but, worth saying as well, which is active versus passive voice. You want to avoid passive voice. But I think for technical articles, a passive voice is more okay, because, you're sort of, distant and abstract from the subject matter. So that's okay, in my opinion. So I'm going to aim for shorter sentences, less complex words. All right, let's begin. All right, one of the things that I don't like about this is that this is such a cliché sentence to start a article with when it's generated by LLMs. So I want to get rid of that, right? So I'm just going to type this instead. Hedera often sparks debate. Alright, so I've got this. It's gone from completely red to this, right? Now I'm just a little bit unhappy because be classified appears twice. So I think there's an opportunity to simplify that even further. Alright, so this looks better, right? So which type of distributed ledger technology? Is it a blockchain or not? So I've broken up that initial sentence, really rambly sentence, into 3 sentences. Well, if you consider a colon a sentence, this is really a fragment. Now classified. I'm going to use thesaurus.com, classified. Not that. Okay, so maybe classified is not the right word. None of the words, synonyms for classified, I think, are better than classified itself while being simple. So I'm going to keep it as classified. Now this is passive voice. How should Hedera be classified? Okay, I'm going to undo that. I think it was better the way it was originally. Alright, let's move on to the next bit. All right, so I have finished going through the entire document once through, and so I'm just going to read through it again and see if anything sticks out at me. All right, so I have gone through this twice now, this Hemingway app, gone through the whole thing. And let's see, the number of sentences, like basically the whole thing was either red or brown, according to the scale. Just zoom in on that. Yeah, the whole thing was either red or brown. And now you make that a bit back to regular zoom. And then there was sprinkling of these other things, green, blue, and purple issues, which are less important in my opinion. But now you can see almost all of it is not red or brown, right? We've got one sentence, two sentences, and one brown. And this doesn't really count. So I'd say, yeah, two sentences considered very hard to read, and one sentence considered hard to read. Yeah, and I'm going to ignore this third one because this is just a list. Yeah, so, and it looks like the readability grade has gone down to 9. It says I could improve. I guess if I remove this sentence, like a couple of the red ones, that would work. I'm just going to have one final attempt, take another stab at this, changing these sentences to red. I'm going to think out loud here. Consensus timestamp is based on their claim submission timestamp and the order witnessed by consensus nodes. I can't think of a way to shorten this. Now, witnessed is you could use saw or seen, I guess, but it has a specific technical meaning that links back to the Hashgraph white paper. Like the word witness is important to keep in that format. Passive voice, not too concerned about it. but I can't really think of another way to think of this. I could say consensus timestamp is based on 2 factors, colon, this and that. But that would imply that it's only those 2 factors. So, not too sure about that. Okay. This represents a classic software engineering trade-off, optimized for higher throughput at the cost of increased latency. So I actually think that there's a bug in Hemingway app, because if I made this a full stop, everything's fine. But for a colon, it considers this to be a single sentence, but it's not, right? A colon is not really the same, doesn't really count the same as a comma, for example. It's not a extension of the sentence. Yeah, I could say full stop and then say that is to optimize for blah, 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 but that would actually make it unnecessarily wordy. So no. This one's borderline. Okay, I think I'm going to keep those as is. Yeah, I'm going to let those 2 reds and 1 brown stay as is. Okay, let's see. So time to put this back into the Google Doc, right? So it doesn't really have the pictures, so I'm going to copy Okay, I think this should do it. Let's copy this and put it back into draft article 6. Alright, that's it for this video, I think. And just to do a quick recap, right? First, I started off with what was done in the past, and also that I extracted this ChatGPT share link for all the prompts. Also walked through, the deploy process from here to here. So we've got a Netlify preview. Then wrote the article again based on article 4 that was done. And so the final thing was to ask for human reviews, which I've got from 4 of my colleagues. And so in this video, that brought us to this video where we primarily took the rendered version from a Google Doc file and put it into Hemingway and increased the readability of the article from I think much higher. Basically, it was, I can't remember what the grade was, but it was significantly more than this, right? Significantly higher, which means more difficult. And instead of being almost entirely red and brown, this is just a couple of reds and 1 brown throughout the article. Yeah. And then finally, I think I'm going to skip the draft article 6 with ChatGPT. I think it's better off this way, having manually edited it using Hemingway. And I'm also going to skip, image generation. I am kind of happy with the meme I created on image flip or something. Can't remember what I used. Actually, I think I made this manually I experimented with image flip, but then I created it manually in some graphic editing software. And this is like a stock image from internal. in Hedera. So yeah, so I'm going to skip that with those two images, right? So just going to get rid of that in the process. And so in the next video, I'll probably revamp the Twitter thread and LinkedIn post before publishing this. All right, and I think this article is good to go and how it is. So accept that. All right, so that's it for today. And just as a sneak preview of what's going to happen next with Twitter thread and LinkedIn post. So yeah, I've done some manual editing over here. I'll go through that in the next video. Yep, that's all.